DevilNeverCry.
What is up, everybody? It is me, DevilNeverCry, and in this video, I'm going to give you my top tips to help you through the arduous yet thrilling journey that is Bayonetta 3. So without further ado, let's dive right in. My top tip, and the very first tip that I wish to cover, revolves around the Demon Slave mechanic. This is the mechanic that allows Bayonetta to summon the giant kaiju-sized infernal demons to fight in her place, while she dances the night away to music that nobody but her can apparently hear. The Demon Slave mechanic has its own advantages that are overshadowed by one glaring disadvantage, in that Bayonetta is entirely exposed to damage and uncontrollable whilst you yourself are controlling the giant demon. So my tip is as follows. Do not hold down the ZL or left trigger button, merely tap it instead. By tapping the left trigger and then quickly inputting the attack command you want your infernal demon to carry out, you can retain full control of Bayonetta, jumping, dodging, or even attacking, whilst your infernal demon completes their attack animation in the background. This allows you to circumvent the disadvantage that I previously mentioned, where Bayonetta is left defenseless, and allows you to reap the full advantages of the infernal summons, allowing you to increase your damage output if you decide to attack at the same time as your summon, or simply allow you to reposition in the battlefield whilst an enemy's attention is still on your infernal summon. What's important to note, of course, is that you still have technically summoned a demon. You'll still expend magic meter, and if you do get hit whilst you're running around the battlefield, it'll act as if you're still dancing and your summon will essentially disappear. The next tip I want to briefly discuss has to do with VIOLA, the other playable character in Bayonetta 3. As usual, Bayonetta can access Witch Time by dodging an enemy's attack right at the last second using the right trigger. Similarly, VIOLA can only access Witch Time by blocking or parrying an enemy's attack right at the last second. But for some reason, when creating VIOLA's moveset, Platinum Games didn't think about standardizing the controls and instead mapped that Witch Time mechanic essentially to a different button than Bayonetta's. So that means that when you're switching between Bayonetta and VIOLA, there'll be a pretty big disconnect, as you actively have to think about which button you press reactively to an enemy's attack to get Witch Time, considering the different characters use different buttons. You can alleviate this by simply swapping VIOLA's moveset in the options menu to type D. What this will do is it'll keep the entire control scheme as standard, but it will swap the buttons for blocking and dodging with VIOLA, meaning that the right trigger, just like Bayonetta, is going to be the sweet spot button that gives you access to Witch Time. Moving away from combat entirely for this next tip, let's quickly discuss exploration and the waypoint system. Bayonetta 3 is a large game. Physically, there are so many expansive environments for you to adventure through and explore, and the game incentivizes this by literally hiding secrets and items and collectibles around every single corner. Now, one of the things I dislike the most in modern gaming is attempting to explore an area only to hit an invisible tripwire for an in-game sequence which blocks off the area I was just in, leaving me disgruntled as I hadn't fully explored where I was. But this is something that Bayonetta actually addresses head-on, quite inadvertently at that, with the waypoint system, in that by simply clicking the left analog stick in, a waypoint will show up on screen telling you where to go next to progress the story or move on to the next main encounter. And so by simply avoiding the area the waypoint is telling me to go, I know that I'm safely able to explore entire regions without fear of being blocked off and forced to essentially replay the chapter to see what I missed. Up next is a tried and tested tip that works well for a multitude of hack and slash games, including Bayonetta 3, and that simply is camera manipulation, and knowing that enemies will not start attack animations unless they are on screen. When enemies are not on screen, they're somewhat pacified, in that they'll try their hardest to get back on screen so they can start an attack animation. So if you're able to attack enemies and spin the camera around to focus only on the enemies you want, it'll keep you safer for longer. This does not mean, however, that enemies can start attack animations and you can swing the camera around so they're out of view and it will pacify them, because it won't. All that will happen is that you'll be hit with an off-screen attack, leaving you disgruntled and confused as to what exactly just happened. And if you don't want to pay attention to that tip, then listen closely to this next one. And it simply is, crank up your audio. No, it's not because the game has a sweet soundtrack, which, to be honest, is a great reason to have that audio all the way up. It's because enemy attacks not only have a visual flair to let you know that an enemy is about to pull off an attack that's heading your way, they also tend to have some sort of audio cue to also let you know that an attack is coming your way. And so if you learn these enemy tells, both visual and audio, you'll stand a far better chance of surviving the combat, especially on some of the higher difficulties where paying attention is paramount to your survival. This next tip is one that's fairly obvious, but not one that everybody employs, and that is dodge. Learn to dodge, practice dodging, whatever you want to call it. It can be far too easy in Bayonetta 3 to simply tunnel vision your way to the end of a combo. After all, that finishing move, whether it's a Wicked Weave or Wing Slave, is where a lot of the damage and payoff for that combo lies, and so it can be easy to just want to get straight to it and kind of disregard what the other enemies are doing. But it is important and imperative that you dodge, particularly when you have the dodge offset mechanic, which allows you to dodge an enemy's attack effectively and continue your combo from exactly where you left off, as opposed to starting that combo again from the very beginning. The entire game's dodge mechanic was set up around this, allowing you to weave dodges into combos effortlessly without feeling like you've lost progress. To facilitate this, I heavily suggest you use Bayonetta 3's practice mode, not just to practice your combos, but to practice dodging, to practice fighting enemies and learning the timing. One of the biggest changes they've included in Bayonetta 3 revolves around how witch time works. Simply put, the later you dodge an enemy's attack, the more witch time you are rewarded with. The tighter you are with dodging and the closer you leave it, the more witch time you have access to kick ass. So it's in your best interests not only to learn how to dodge on reflex, but to also learn enemy timings and be proactive in your dodge so that you're able to reap the biggest rewards for your efforts. And that about does it for this video. Those were some of my top tips to help you through Bayonetta 3. If there's anything you feel I should have included or perhaps you think I've missed, let me know your top tips down in the comments below. If you enjoyed today's video and this helps you out, leave a like and be sure to subscribe so you don't miss out on any more Bayonetta videos. With all that said and done, it has been me, DevilNeverCry. I'd like to thank all of you for watching, and as always, I'll see you all next video.